We just want to welcome you all once again to the second installment of the Public Policy Economic Luncheon Series by the Black Star Project. We thank each and every one of you for coming out. We're very, very grateful for your presence. We apologize for the delay. We had some technical difficulties, but I'm sure you guys are enjoying your food in the meanwhile. We're going to get this presentation started right away so we don't cut too much into your afternoon. So once again, thank you all for being here. And if you all would please help me in welcoming Mr. Baron Waller.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. You know, I'm the franchise owner of the Culvers in Chicago, Bronzeville at 33rd and King Drive. I also own the Culvers in New Lenox, Illinois, in Lockport, Illinois, and in Joliet. So I own several Culvers. You know, I was born and raised in Chicago. I was born on the west side. I went to school on the north side. I went to Lang Tech High School. And, you know, during high school, we moved to the south side, and I still kept going to Lang Tech. And I would tell my kids all the time that, you know, I took 2 L's, a bus, and a mule to work every day. So, because it was just so far to get there. You know, I attended Gregory School on the west side. So, I mean, yeah. You know, many people haven't heard of that school, but it was, it was an important school for me. You know, I'm just here to say, you know, I wasn't this great student that most people think that entrepreneurs have to be. I wasn't this focused student as well, but I was a hard worker. But for me, what I found a good job when I finished high school. I began to work for Crane Communications, Crane Chicago Business. I began to work in their accounting department as a file clerk. You know, I worked other positions when I worked with them, but I was passed over many times. I started working in their IT department, and all of a sudden, I was a computer operator and could not move up anymore. And that focus was because I didn't have a degree. So what I began to do, I went back to school and I earned an associate's degree in computer science. And then I went to Wayne State University in Detroit at night, all at night. I worked full time at night. I went to school full time, and I ended up finishing my undergraduate degree in business. Then I finally made a decision that I was going to quit work and go to school full time. You know, I was accepted at the University of Michigan Business School. So I have my MBA from the University of Michigan. There I focused on brand management and corporate strategy. You know, then I spent the next 14 years working for IBM. I worked in their sales department. I was in sales and in sales management. You know, it felt at the time that I found the American dream. But, you know, I did not know. You know, only 4% of Americans go from Q5 to Q1, from poor to rich. Most people stay poor. 43% stay poor. 53% of African Americans stay poor, meaning they stay in that Q5 area, in that lower area. You know, 27% of us, we move up slightly, but once we have one generation, 56% of us move right back down. 17% move up slightly, and 9 move up 2, 3 quintiles. But for those numbers, the numbers were so small for African Americans that it could not even be measured. So meaning that we really don't get to experience the American dream. And, you know, I felt that I reached it. But, you know, now I know. And the main reason why is the parental penalty. What it says is where you're born is where you stay. And for us, for black people, we're mainly poor, middle class. That's where we stay. But we've come to find that when we get a college degree, 86% of those who move out of that 5th quintile, 86%, they get to move out of it. And the reason why is they get a college degree, And there's other couple of factors as well. Marriage, because you have a double income, as well as home ownership, because you have assets that you can use. So that American dream, it's still there, but it's not really there as much for us. So we have to continue to work in order to get it. Now, one of the reasons why I opened Culver's, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about this. I experienced going to Culver's, the first one in Lansing, Illinois. And I walked in, and they opened the door for me. Not only did they open the door for me, I sat down. They brought the food for me. They really treated me well. It was really good customer service. And I decided, hey, I'm going to open one myself. And the reason why I opened one in Bronzeville, which would be there, is because it's a familiar area for me. I used to live in Lake Meadows. I mean, it's a very familiar area. It's a historically black area. It's the black metropolis. And I wanted to create jobs. I wanted to help people find work. I hired 86 people, but 40 were high schoolers and 40 were adults. And thought 40, the adults, they have to work too. They got to take care of their families. The high schoolers, I wanted to hire them so we can teach them how to work. And many of you guys know, we try to get them to work and they're not focused at all. But what we talk about is the Culver's culture, the Culver's culture. And within the Culver's culture, we want our people to say, please, and thank you, and you're welcome, and my pleasure. Those are the type of things that we emphasize that we want them to do. And we think with that, it'll help them later in life, because now they know how to adjust. They know how to talk to people by saying please and thank you and work with them. For us, 3% of $1.4 trillion is built in our neighborhoods. Only 3%. But just think, Philip and I were talking a couple days ago. Just think if we had at least 10% of that $1.4 trillion being spent in our neighborhoods, we wouldn't need welfare. We wouldn't need all these things. But the old adage is a dollar only stays in the black community for 6 hours. The other communities, they're days, 14 days, 27 days. So, what we need to really think about is how can we start businesses in our own area? Last week I was talking to a senior woman who came into the restaurant, and she was talking to me about Bronzeville, her history of Bronzeville, and how it used to be. That on 39th Street, she would go down 39th Street, and 39th Street they have doctors and lawyers and theaters, and everything was just a black area, and it was like a metropolis because everybody was there, and you can get whatever you need there. But and she said she really missed those days. And I'm happy to be back in Bronzeville, that we can actually have, and we can start building more of that we have more ownership in the community. My wife, she likes to watch old movies and old shows. We were watching a show called Decades, where Brian Burwell was talking to Buck O'Neill. Buck O'Neill is the first black scout for the Chicago Cubs, and he found Ernie Banks, Lou Brock. He found these guys, but he talked about how Bronzeville and how the black community was back in those days, that it was a thriving area. It was thriving. But, there's some pros and cons in that. The pros is that it was a black area, but the cons is that with integration, those black areas kind of disappear. Now, before we want you to jump into entrepreneurship, I think we need to do some self-assessments. We need to ask ourselves about, how do I become an entrepreneur? What are the things they need to do? One of the first things that I want to talk about, that there's been a 2.3 increase in the number of black-owned businesses. So we have been opening more businesses. In fact, there's a 322% increase in black-owned women businesses. So actually, that's where the increases tend to be for black-owned women. But they tend to open smaller places for themselves, and not really look at opening for other people. So they open a lot of businesses, but just for them, not for anyone else. But so, women took the fate in their own hands. They're doing those things. But I think all of us need to start thinking about it. One of the things I think we should look at, we need to know ourselves. Know who you are. You need to know what type of person you are. Are you an introverted person, extroverted person? What are the things you're willing to do? Are you the type of person who go looks for help? Or do you try to do everything on your own? Those type of things help you determine what area you should work with. Your leadership style. There's 9 different types of leadership style. Are you charismatic? Are you autocratic? You need to understand, how do you lead people? And you can use that to help you identify what you should do. When I started Michigan Business School, after I worked all that time, I thought, should I reinvent myself? Should I think about doing something different? I had this technical background, and I wanted to decide, should I go ahead and become an investment banker? Should I go into marketing? What should I do? And, what I chose is to start to do what I do best, is to work with people and focus on what I like. And I felt that brand management was an area that I should have been focused on. And that's what I did. Next slide. I think we should also have a knowledge, an aptitude, or skill of something. What I mean by knowledge is something that you can learn. So you can learn something that can help you in business. Right? Some people have an aptitude on things. They just know. And that's something that can help. Or that can be a skill. So, people play baseball, they play all these sports. It's just something that they have. So it's a knowledge, it's an aptitude, or a skill. But you have to know what you know. That's very important, to know what you know. Then you need to know this market. Who's going to buy it? Who am I going to sell it to? How am I going to make money? And a part that I think is important is actually you need to know how to read a financial statement. Because they're going to give you something and you're going to look at it and say, well, does it make money or does it not make money? You should know. You shouldn't be an expert in it, but you should know how to read it. Typically black-owned businesses, we enter low barriers to entry type of businesses and low survival rates. Meaning, we typically will open a barber shop, hair salon, or barbecue place. That's what we typically will do. And part of the problem is it's a low barrier entry and it's a lot of competition. So what ends up happening is you're competing so much against yourselves that you cannot be successful. You cannot create that wealth that's generational. Yes, it's good for you, one person, but it's not good for your generation. And I think that's what we have to start thinking about. We have to start thinking beyond me and think about how we can affect, us overall. I chose Culver's for its strong brand recognition, its strong brand image and equity. When you think of Culver's, what's the thing that come to mind? Food and customer service. That's what you think about automatically. And that's something that is a strong identity there that can help you. And I think when you're looking for businesses for yourself, that's what you look for. You look for something that has something strong. And not only was Culver's had this strong brand identity, it was growing. My first Culver's, it was store number 430. The Culver's I just opened was store number 648. So, and 647. And And just out of that, that's 218 stores in 7 years. 218 stores in 7 years. And we haven't reached the Northwest. We haven't gone to the Northwest. We haven't gone to the Northeast. I mean, we haven't gone to the most populated areas yet. So if we're at store number 648 right now, just think once we reach those areas, California and the Northeast and the Northwest, that's going to vastly increase. So the things that you look for is, I'm looking for something that's growing. I'm looking for something that has a strong brand identity. And you have to have, in doing that, you have to have a willingness to work. You have to do your research up front. You have to do research. You just can't just jump into something and say, oh, okay. For me, going to Culver's, it took me 5 years to decide to go into Culver's. After the first year going there, I actually made contact with Culver's. We talked, and they told me what they required, which was a lot. It was a lot. And I said, well, am I willing to do that right now? At the time, I worked for IBM. And, I call something the golden handcuffs, in that you work for someone and you're making good money, right? You have good health care. You have all those things. You're not happy, but because you have those things, you stay there, right? And, we have to get through that. We have to go ahead and start doing the research and deciding where we want to go. We have to put in time. Now, Brian's my nephew. Yeah. When we decided to open a Culver's, we went up to Madison, Wisconsin, and we were up there 15 weeks. For free. They didn't pay us at all. 15 weeks we were up there. We worked 5 days a week, 12 hours a day. And we did it for 15 weeks. It was tough. It was really, really tough. And we went through that. I can tell you, we put in our time. We put in the time. We showed them that we were serious. I got to say, there's not many black owners within Culver's. Not at all. I think we were talking, the one in Lansing, I think that's probably on the fifth one. Yeah. It's only the fifth one. And there's me and Brian. There's one in outside of Detroit, and then there's one in Arizona. That's it. So there's not a whole lot. And that means there's opportunities for us. There's opportunity. Now, one really big thing we have to be willing to do is take a risk. Now, I have people working for me we're going to open other Culver's. So we're going to increase that numbers. I mean, we have one person, Ron, right in the back here. Ron, he worked for the county. He was a Cook County police officer. And he took a risk. He says, I want to open a Culver's. So he works directly for us in the restaurant. And what we're going to do, we're going to open a restaurant for Ron. Ron took the risk. And that's what we have to do. We have to identify areas, and we have to take the risk. I know, we finally find good jobs at times. We claw our way up the ladder sometimes, and we find a position in which we feel secure. But we have to start thinking about generational wealth. Generational wealth. Not just you, but your kids and their kids. That's the only way that we can change anything. No, I'll just finish it without it. I'll finish without it. Okay. We also have to focus on making sure that 56% that get out of poverty, that 56 don't go back. The only way we have to make sure that they don't go back is we have to start focusing on generational wealth. And, in order to do that, we have to start making plans. We have to make a plan. When I decided I was going to leave I was going to leave IBM and go to Culver's, I started writing a business plan. I wrote a 250-page business plan. And I got to tell you, with that business plan, I didn't have any problem getting a loan. I really didn't, because they knew that I knew what I was talking about. They knew that I understood my market that I was going into. This was New Linux. They knew I understood the market. They knew I understand the demographics. Within the business plan, let me define to you what a business plan is. A business plan is a written document describing the nature of business, the sales and marketing strategy, and the financial background, and containing projected profit and loss statements. A business plan is also a roadmap that provides directions so a business can plan its future and help avoid bumps in the road. Now, that business plan helped me a great deal, because I took that business plan to financial institutions. They read it. They said, he knows what he's talking about. I also took that to other organizations that I want to work with within the community. I said, hey, this is what I want to do. Here's a business plan. I'm coming to your community. They were very happy. I also took that to not only to bankers, took that to an accountant. Found an accountant. He's willing to work with me. When you plan yourself, when you make your plan and you share that plan, you often get people on your side. And that's part of what you need to do, is get people on your side. And taking the time to write a business plan is one way to do that.
Aaron was New Linux 1, and then what was the other?
Lockport,
Lockport was
2, and then Joliet Larkin was 3.
3, and 32
It's 4. Yep. So, business plans help. They help a great deal. But, the biggest thing that I did is I saved money. One of the hardest things for black-owned businesses is capital. We can't find capital. We don't save. Now, for me, I had the luxury. I left IBM. I left with a profit-sharing plan. I actually began to save. When I decided I was going to leave, I began to save money as well. So when it came time for me to go ahead and open it, I had the money to do it. I was prepared. But for everyone, we have to start thinking that we have to start planning, and we have to start saving money. There's a lot of studies out there that talk about us. You know what they say about us? We spend. We spend everything. We spend everything. We spend more than we save. So how can we open a business? We spend everything.
Nielsen report said we spend 4% more money than we have.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So that's right on. We spend more than what we have. Charles Jaffe, who's a financial analyst, said, it's not your salary that makes you rich. It's your spending habits. If you save your money, then you'll have the money to open. Now, the final thing I want to talk about is that we also have to be patient. We have to understand that we have to work a plan. You have to plan your work and work your plan. From the time that I decided to open Culver's, again, I said it took me 5 years. After working with others and developing that desire to open my own business, I researched different areas. Culver's wasn't the only place that I researched. I researched different areas, and I set a goal. I created my business plan. I got people on my side, got them interested in me. I saved, I earned capital, I invested, and then I finally executed my plan. I want to thank you for your time today and your ears for hearing my experiences and my process and how I started my new business. You want any questions?
I just want to thank you all so much for listening again. If we can give them another round of applause, we really appreciate your presentation. Gotcha. We'll do a quick round of questions if you guys have any questions for them. We can start with the lady in the back.
Okay, thank you.
The 15 weeks, was that synonymous like McDonald's University?
Yes, it was similar to the McDonald's University, Hamburg University, very similar to that, but here we actually work. You're actually working in a real restaurant, and you're doing everything in that restaurant. They're teaching you position by position by position. So you're learning it, and then after you're there for a while, they start teaching you the background. Let's talk about. They start letting you see the software that supports the business. How do you do all these things? Here are some reports that you can use. But understanding of financial statements makes it even easier to understand. Well, we haven't, but I've been going to schools and talking to schools, and just talking with schools. I went over to Pershing School just I think a week and a half ago, and just talking to the kids, the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and talk with them about entrepreneurialism. Actually, just talking to them about working. What I did, I took one of my blueprints from one of my restaurants, the large blueprint. I took it over there, and I opened it up, and I said, you know who went into building this restaurant? It was not just me. There were architects. There were developers. There were electricians. There were all these people here who you could be. You can become a part of all this. You don't just have to focus on being a football player or a basketball player. You can be an architect. You can be something completely different. You can be a banker. And that's what I do talking with young people.
So the franchise cost for opening a Culver now compared to when you opened it?
It hasn't changed much, but it's a large investment. You buy your own land. That's different from a McDonald's. You buy your own land. You build your own building. You buy your own equipment. So that investment are hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hundreds of thousands.
What are you leasing, the name?
Huh? You're actually from Culver's. It's a process. It's the operations that you're getting from them, and you're getting the marketing support. You're getting a lot of support from them, but you own your own. Actually, that was one of the benefits. One of the things that I liked about Culver's is that you own your own. You own your own land. You own your own building. You own your own equipment. It's not something that they own and they tell you what to do, but you own it yourself.
A couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Many of us are familiar with McDonald's and how they recruit. I'm wondering why Culver, with 600 plus restaurants, have only 6 African American owners. Do they reach out? Do they open up that door? Do they try to recruit? Or is it just by accident that you get in? How? What is the problem with Culver?
They
have so few African Americans.
Well, they don't go out and recruit. Actually, they don't recruit anybody. They don't recruit anybody. But we talked about one of the problems for us, capital. There's a lot of people who want to open a Culver's, but you can't because you need. I thought I turned that off. It's capital. It requires capital. And when I say hundreds of thousands, I mean hundreds of thousands. So it's a lot of money that you have to have in order to get started.
Well, if you don't mind disclosing,
requirements. So how much of your own capital, how much of your own money you have to put out, and how much you have to leverage? That's
Okay.
one question.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you.
And then the B part, and it is Culver's territorial. I remember 10 years ago, I really wanted to own a Dunkin' Donuts franchise.
Mm-hmm.
The liquidity was extraordinarily high, and it was very territorial. So, just two questions.
One, okay. When you first start, you have to have at least $600,000 of your own money. Yeah, that's right. So, so that's when we talk about capital, we're talking about capital. So you have to have $600,000 of your own money. That's the first thing. That's right. That's right. And territorial, you get a 3-mile radius of where you are. In the city, I think it's going down to a mile, but it's a 3-mile radius. But they do give you, they give you ample space in order to work. But
I really believe that in addition to capital, is that we don't plan. We don't have someone to help us like he's doing for Mr. Ryan to help us plan. I don't know, Mr. Ryan, you're interested in the Culvers before you met, or how long you've been in the making of everything. But if we have a seasoned entrepreneur help us, if I was in Ron's case, then maybe that person can show us. When you want to own a business, these companies, they don't come to you. They don't come to the black neighborhoods. It's not like a college recruit thing. You must have the desire to go to them. You must inquire. And this is a good first step that you're here to inquire today. Thank you. So if we will put ourselves in Mr. Brown's shoes, maybe the staff that you have now or so are thinking, I would like to own a Culver's. I'm going to stay here. But loyalty to the brand and to be underneath a seasoned entrepreneur is really key. A plan and to be willing to submit and stay with the plan.
And you're hitting a lot of things right on the head. We've had many people who would come and say they're interested, but they're not willing to spend the time. They're not willing to spend the time. They think that, I know. And it doesn't work that way. We said this with Ron. Ron's saying the same thing, that, it's going to take 1.5 years, 2 years for him to really understand the operations. So he understands the operations and being able to run it on his own. And that's our plan. My plan was from the beginning, you come and work for me, and I'm going to show you everything. I'm going to show you, so when you open your own, you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And that's, I think sometimes that's what we have to do. And that's what we're doing. And I have not only Ron, I have a couple other people who are working as well. So, my objective was first I open my few restaurants, but then also help other people open as well.
First of all, I want to commend you for all the hard work that you put in getting to where you are.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
First question is, how long did it take for you to turn a profit, and how sensitive is the market to ups and downs in the economy?
Now, it depends on what you mean by turn a profit.
Expenses minus revenue.
Well, are you talking about short-term profits or long-term profits? So if you're talking about short-term profits, right away. Right away. Short-term profits right away. But then you look at long-term profits, because you do have to go borrow some money too. So, so you're not profitable from a long-term perspective right away, but you get that down and you become profitable from the company perspective. So from a short-term perspective, you start making money right away. If you pick the right location. That's right. If you pick the right location, you're profitable right away. But then, of course, again, from the long-term perspective, it'll take a little bit more time.
And then the sensitivity to changes in the market?
Well, no. Because Culver's has that strong brand, name, identity, recognition, yes, we're affected, but not as up and down as a McDonald's, because our focus is on customer service, hospitality. It's not just on give you some food and get you out the door. That's not what we try to do. We try to get you to come on in, sit down, treat you well when you're in here, and say goodbye, want to see you soon. So when people come in and they have that experience, they say, I want to come back. So that's what we want to focus on. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable coming to our place, and we're going to have you enjoy it while you're here. And when you leave, we want you to think about coming back. So that's the most important thing. The most important thing is not just selling Butterburgers and custard. The most important thing is treating your customers right.
Got time for one more question. Okay, you can. That was your question as well? Okay, well, I'll give you the last question, but you can answer that.
3355 South King Drive.
Ma'am.
Hi, I'm wondering if I want to invest in Culver's, start the stock market. How's that looking?
Culver's is a private company. I've been asking for that too, believe me. I have been. Most recently, Culver's sold 30% of its company to an investment firm out of Atlanta, but they still control 70% of the company, and it's all private. They haven't, took it out to market yet, but everyone's asking when it goes public, everyone will be interested because it's a growing company. Okay.
Thanks so much. Excellent presentation.
Could I say something? I live in the neighborhood, and my first call was out of business was Culver with Town, and I was so impressed about how they welcome people, how nice it looks. So I've had it on my mind when I go see my son in Warren, I always go to a Culver. I never dreamed that one was going to come to my block. And I want to really say, I go in there, I know when you first started building and so forth, you have done a magnificent job. Because I go also to the one in Fairville, and you have just made me feel, I've been in this neighborhood 50 years, 1968, that's 50 years. You make me feel real good, bringing such a first world-class business right on the corner of 33rd Place and King's Life. I want to thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I want to turn it over to Philip Jackson. He likes to acknowledge some of you all.
You told me you were going to bring our relatives, so.
It's your cousin now.
Thank you. No, that's my mama. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I think we've had a wonderful day. Wow. So the first order of business when we finish is that anything that's left, you're welcome to. So you can have a second lunch or you can take a sandwich with you. I just want to acknowledge a few people in the room today. Nicole Arner was here, who was a Black Star mama, her son through our mentoring program. Mr. Walter Cannon is here from, he's outside, right, just stepped outside, from 106.3. Therese Johnson is here, former principal from the Chicago Public Schools, Therese Johnson. And in fact, some of the schools, she worked at Marshall, at Collins, at South Shore, and on and on and on. All right, thank you. Miss Linda Puckett from KLSU, she's a lead teacher principal. And Miss Etta Martin. And now, what that is a Saturday school that you guys have been operating for about 5 years now. Every Saturday, it's in Westchester now. Young people, how many enrolled? 50. So we have 50 young people, mostly Black and Latino, every Saturday, 5th to 8th grade, who come for additional instruction in reading, math, and English.
That's also my next door neighbor in Hillside.
All right. So thank you for your work. Mr. Otis Monroe.
Who's he?
Mr. Monroe, from the Monroe Foundation. In fact, you've got something coming up this weekend in Maywood.
Every weekend through April 3rd in Westbrook County, we are providing free on-site tax preparation, filing services for low-income, working families, folks that are not working, should have filed a tax return. Just go to my website, www.themonroefoundation.org, and the schedule is on the site.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Steve and Loretta Bradford are here, volunteers and supporters of Black Star. Manzar Mangum is here, our WVON big supporter. You may hear him on WVON all the time, and a huge supporter of the Black Star Project, and Melody Span Cooper. So, thank you. Reverend Gloria Randolph is here. Reverend Randolph? And she is with Giving God the Glory Ministries. And she's got a couple of galas coming up relatively soon, and we'll tell you more about that in the future. Bob Starshak is here. Bob is a longtime member of the Black Star Project. And we also have Reverend Lonnie is here. Reverend? Not only is he a reverend, he's also a member of Local 596 Pipe Fitters. He also is the chairman of the board of a school. What is the name of the school? Reverend Newman? Reverend Newman. Thank you. And we have some college students here. Who is Bradley Hill? Bradley Hill. Every luncheon, we try to bring college students in. And Bradley, you're on spring break from what school? Excellent. And what is your major? Oh, excellent. So hopefully you should get an A this term. Thank you. And others. I'd like to introduce the Black Star staff, Gloria, our executive director, and Ms. Shanita Howard, Mr. Herb Howard, and we have one more volunteer. And where's Miss Bettina O'Hara? Good, thank you. And once again, he's been a huge supporter of not only the Black Star Project, but of Black people moving forward in Chicago. He's also the CEO of Truth Be Told Media. And he just negotiated a pretty big deal with Mariano's to get Mariano's to do advertising in the African American community. Mr. Carl West.
Right.
All right. So I just want to thank everybody once again for coming out.
Just wanted to really quickly thank each and every one of you guys for coming out. Thank you to our special guest, our speaker, Mr. Baron Waller. We really appreciate it. Once again, we thank you all so very much for coming out. We really, really appreciate your time this afternoon. Feel free to grab whatever you like to eat again or take with you. Thank you all so much.